guys, welcome back to World of Tanks. My name is Bruce and today I want to show you and analyze a very interesting game in which I achieved a decent result, could finally carry the game, plus nonetheless got insulted by some of my teammates for apparently doing stupid things. If you're interested in more reviews and gameplay, go to YouTube and search for World of Tanks with Bruce to get all of my videos, or click on the subscribe button. And now let's go. So I played with Rhino, the Italian tier 10 heavy tank, which recently got buffed by Wargaming. Now this is how I got insulted during the game, and we will soon see what happened. But first of all, let me give you a little intro into the strength and weaknesses of the Rhino before we start with the game. So one strength of the Rhino is its 3-clip autoloader gun, so you can deal 3 times 490 alpha damage. You have a standard penetration of 268 with the standard ammunition, and the gun is relatively precise. As you can see, dispersion 0.3 in my current setup and aim time 1.83 seconds, plus minus 10 degrees of gun depression. Now, the drawback of this tank is the awful reload time and the DPM. DPM is only 2000, and the reload time is 14.7 seconds, 15.9 seconds, and 18.7 seconds. So you do not want to, first of all, fight on your own and then empty all your shots, because your reload is just awful and you can get easily pushed out. So with this tank and with the awful DPM, you don't want to be sitting on a flank on your own. This is one drawback of the tank. The mobility is also mediocre. It's not too bad. The power to weight ratio is actually okay. And the top speed with 40 kph is also not too bad, however nothing out of the ordinary. And then when it comes to the armor, you have to say that the armor is lackluster. So here you can see the armor of the Rhino, and the armor actually only works if you are playing in a hull down position. So as long as you can find a hull down position, once again, which you can play alongside with your teammates, then you are set up nicely in this tank. However, if you are brawling against heavy tanks on a flat surface, on an even ground, then your armor is lackluster. So this is about so much about the strength and weaknesses of the Rhino, and let's now see what happened in the game. Alright, here we are in the match, spawning on Mountain Pass in the north with the Rhino. And let's first of all take a look and see what options we have in a heavy tank spawning in the north. Spawning on Mountain Pass in the north, this is how the game usually develops. So with the heavy tank you have multiple options. You can first of all go to the, let's say, the standard heavy lane and brawl frontally against the opponent heavy tanks. But with a tank like the Rhino, which has only good armor if you play hull down, you should go to this flank and go to this position in order to play hull down against all those forces. In fact, it is relatively easy from the northern spawn to win the western flank, and then this allows you to further push towards the enemy base and win the game. Alright, so I certainly want to go to the western flank, so to the one lane, and try to approach this position from where I can play hull down, and hopefully I get some support, maybe the TVP T50-51, maybe the VZ-55. So far everything is good. Now the VZ-55 makes a typical mistake and tries to aim at the crossing. He should rather join me on going to the desired position, so securing the flank. And at this moment I was pinging for help already, because I saw that actually I do not have any support whatsoever, And this is not good in the Rhino because my DPM is completely lackluster, and so I cannot go onto a flank all on my own. Okay, so let's pause here real quick and let's talk about what is happening in the game. As you can see, there are only two heavy tanks, the Mouse and the Super Conqueror, and the medium tank, the Leopard 1, playing the, let's say, the standard or regular heavy lane on the eastern side of the map. And then the Object 277, the IS-7, as well as the Object 705 Alpha, so the platoon, basically pushed across the bridge, which is, in my opinion, a completely nonsense move. Now they're facing an enormous amount of enemy forces, of course, and we leave the western flank all to the enemy team. The fast heavy tank, the Object 780, has already pushed across. There are lots of tanks which are not spotted right now. The Kranwagen, the Mouse, well, I mean, the Mouse would certainly have been spotted if this player decided to cross. Same with the Panzerkampfwagen 7, but maybe the Super Conqueror, maybe the Leopard 1, maybe the T100LT are playing on this flank, and so I do need to be cautious and I do need to fall back. So now the question is where to fall back, and in my opinion, or you know what, let's take a look onto the map. So in this situation with multiple options, the first one is to stay in this position and to simply try and play hull down here and try to hold the enemy forces. Obviously you can get pushed out easily. During this process, your teammates might get shots onto the tanks which are pushing you out, so you will get assisting damage. However, you will nonetheless be sent back to the garage, and so you can fall back into this position and also play down, basically spot all the enemy forces once they are coming around this corner and basically trying to push you out. However, you will also get pushed out of this position, at least if you do not have any support. So in this situation, my preferred option is actually to fall back here, because from here I can also spot the enemy forces, at least once they are beyond, let's say, this line here and trying to push you out. Plus this position, in order to push you out of this position, they would have to fall back all this way back to the base and then up the hill. So this gives me significantly more time to bring out shots and to take those adversary tanks under fire, which helps me in my Rhino because my DPM is lackluster. Plus I can play hull down and increase the armor of my tank and bring myself into a strong position where I can use the strength of my tank. So in my opinion, if you have no support whatsoever, this position is the way to go. Plus, keep in mind, if you would sit in this position, you can not only get pushed from here, but also from here. And this position right here will obviously give you control, not only via this lane, but also via this lane and also via this lane, because from here you can not only spot here and here, but also enemy forces which are crossing the bridge. So in my opinion, this is the strongest defensive position. Okay, so I decided to fall back for the given reasons, and I also decided to fall back to the position, to the C2 position, basically where the Batchat 155 artillery is positioned, for the reasons that I just explained. And yeah, you can call me super cautious, but in my opinion this is smart gameplay. Unfortunately, we leave the western flank to the adversary team. However, the only good thing is that if the enemy forces are pushing, they need to cross an open field, basically from the G1 to the D2 position. And so I will have the chance of getting multiple shots to the enemy tanks which are approaching now. Now most of the tanks have been spotted. I'm basically still waiting for the T100LT and also for the Object 780 to finally push aggressively, but I will be set up and I will be waiting for those tanks, and I'm finally positioned on the high ground, so I get the chance of playing hull down And if you play hull down with the Rhino, then your armor actually works and your armor is becoming relatively strong. So in my opinion, a decent gameplay due to the fact that our team has positioned itself relatively lackluster on this map. Okay, so we cannot get a shot onto the T100 LT, which is fine. And yeah, now this has developed into a game of patience, but that is just how it is. Okay, so okay, this shot does not penetrate. Okay, so let's see. So far we have an advantage when it comes to HP, which is fine. Yeah, tell the Judas 1560 to fall back, because he is, in my opinion, losing his HP for no reasons. And now let's see, can we get a shot onto the no? I do not want to take a too risky shot. Maybe now. Nice. The first 538 damage. Nice. Of course I'm spotted, but I will simply hide behind this rock, which is an extremely strong position. Or obviously maybe the enemy artillery will sooner or later focus me, which is fine. And now maybe if he pushes out once again, then I will be able to take him out of the game. So in my opinion, what I'm doing is I am basically holding two corridors for the enemy team. The position where the Judas just received my first shot, and then also the position of the object 780. So in my opinion, a relatively good gameplay. Once again, having in mind that our team is positioned relatively poor on this map so far. Okay, so let's see what is happening. Of course, this is not the gameplay I like to do, but sometimes you have to adjust to what your team is doing, and you simply cannot play as you wish because your team is not allowing you this option. So yeah, I'm always trying to look what is going on. The object 705 Alpha has already lost 2/3 of its HP. Maybe we can get a shot onto the IS-7 if he pushes out, so we can at least cover the object 705 Alpha. And now look what is going on in the game. So I'm basically sitting here, nothing has happened, the enemy team has been unable to push our base, which is good. Artillery is focusing me, okay, which is understandable. And okay, artillery is shooting. I think the artillery just hit the rock. The Manticore is driving out in order to spot, which is good. And I'm telling him, yes, I will support you. The TVP is meanwhile checking out the heavy flank. And we receive shots from the object 261. The gameplay is so far relatively boring, absolutely true. However, I wouldn't show you this replay if it wouldn't get much more interesting at the end of the game. So just stay tuned and see what is going on. So far what we did is we simply reacted to what our team decided to do. So basically on the team composition, oh, the object 705 Alpha has already been deleted, and so yeah, taken out of the game. The object 277 has also already been deleted. The IS-7 is getting pushed, is now also being taken out of the game, and looks like the TVP managed to kill the IS-7. Meanwhile, artillery is focusing us because we are basically the only heavy tank still in the game. And so that is completely understandable. And now let's see what is going on. So yeah, I wrote glorious idea to push bridge. because it was completely stupid gameplay. And now all those heavy tanks have been deleted out of the game, and we are the only one still in the game. And now we have to see whether we can. And now the TVP is writing Rhino reported. Okay, and I'm like, okay, why do you want to report me? Because what I'm doing is completely smart gameplay, and on the other side all of the heavy tanks have wasted their tanks because they drove into positions where they could not use the strength of their tanks, not even a bit. So in my opinion, yes, I'm playing completely defensively, completely conservatively. However, this is in my opinion smart gameplay, because and now the TVP is pushing me away because he's completely annoyed, and I'm like, okay, what the f is going on? But you know what, let's pause here and let's see what the platoon did, and also what the TVP T5051, which has basically lost the majority of its HP to the enemy tanks. So let's see what those players have been achieving so far. Okay, so let's now take a look at the super platoon, the object 277, the object 705 Alpha, and the IS-7, and see what those tanks are achieving. So looks like the object 277 player as well as the IS-7 player are aggressively moving forward, pushing over the bridge. In my opinion, the worst choice on this map for the opening of a game. They try to use the speed of their tanks in order to push forward into this position right here. And now, as you can see, the object 277 even pushes out further, brawls against the VZ55 and the IS-7. And now take a look at the timer. So after only 1 minute into the game, the object 277 player has already lost 2/3 of its HP. So completely nonsense gameplay, if you ask me. Now, what is the object 705 Alpha player doing? Well, he's covering his friends. The VZ55 is also stupidly pushing onto the bridge, and so 1, 2, 3, 4 heavy tanks are basically out of the game with no option whatsoever. And now those tanks think, well, from this position we can at least have a crossfire position towards the heavy lane. This is what the IS-7 is thinking. But the problem here is that this super conqueror, basically all those tanks, need to move out further and at least to this position, so that the IS-7 gets a crossfire opportunity. Now the mouse has chosen to push forward, so those tanks are basically playing smart and remaining at the back of their lane, and so there's no crossfire option whatsoever. Now the IS-7, I think, accidentally dropped down. Now the object 277 is doing the same thing, but now there's once again no crossfire situation, because they're basically all brawling frontally against the mouse and against the Kranwagen and against the other tanks on this lane. So in my opinion, completely nonsense gameplay. Meanwhile, what is the object 705 Alpha doing? Well, he's still in his side scraping position, but now sooner or later, as we see, and then they are brawling against the Kampfpanzer 7, which is basically a weak tank, but that's how it is. So let's fall back a little bit so that we can see all of those tanks. So the object 705 Alpha can do nothing in this position, and now our tanks are brawling frontally against the adversary tanks. And now the object 705 Alpha moves out, and tries to support his teammates in this position right here. So first of all, he does not have gun depression, and then he is unable to hide his tank, and so not only does he receive fire from the tanks of the heavy lane, but then he's also susceptible to shots from this position right here. So he's then even over angling his tank, not only to this position, but also to this position. So in my opinion, another extremely bad move. And here you go, he's losing all his HP. And so what those heavy tanks are basically doing is they're not only playing, let's say, stupid positions, they are also making fundamental mistakes when it comes to, you know, when it comes to angling your tank, using your armor, all the basics that you should be doing once you achieve or once you play a tier 10 tank. So the object 277 has already been taken out of the game. The object 705 Alpha has lost basically more or 2/3 of its HP. And yeah, so now he's down to being one-shottable. And basically they are throwing away their tanks without achieving anything. And we'll take a look at the post-game stats at the end of the game. But in my opinion, this is complete nonsense, and this is not how you should play your heavy tanks on Mountain Pass. And of course, you cannot rely on those tanks and on those teammates, and you can certainly not be of the opinion that you can successfully kind of team up with those players and conduct smart gameplay whatsoever. The IS-7 is aggressively pushing forward, and he will soon be taken out of the game because he's, as you can see on the minimap, basically facing all the remaining enemy teams. He's even pushing into a Jagdpanzer E100, which is always a bad idea, and the object 705 will be also taken out of the game very soon. Alright, so let's now take a look and see what the TVP is doing. So the TVP 50/51. So he is parking basically in this position. Oh, and by the way, he's trying to use this bush. Let's make the camera a little bit slower. He's trying to use the bush, but as you can see, he's actually not so much hiding his tank, and he is basically remaining in this bush, trying to shoot onto the tanks which are crossing on the other side. If you ask me, this is a stupid position. He should either go to this position, because here he can fall back into cover like this, or maybe he should go into this position so that he can fall back into cover like this. But standing here makes him susceptible of being spotted by a light tank, even in this position or maybe in this position. Plus, if he is spotted, he can be taken out of the game instantaneously. And so this position is actually a very bad one. Now you see me falling back. Why? Because I do not have any support whatsoever. And let's see what happens. So can make this a little bit faster. So now the enemy UDAS 1516 is approaching the middle. Also not the best gameplay if you ask me. Let's make it a little bit faster. And so now the enemy TVP T5051 is pushing out, and now this player here gets the chance of taking out this tank, which is good. However, he is spotted, he does not fall back, and so he receives his first damage. Now artillery is also shooting towards this tank, so this kind of tells me that this player has not understood the mechanics in World of Tanks whatsoever. If you take a shot onto an enemy tank, even if you are in a bush, keep in mind the 50-meter bush rule, and if the bush is not transparent, then you will get spotted. And if you take a shot and if you get spotted after you took a shot, then obviously you will be susceptible to shots of the enemy team, and so you should always fall back. And so not only his position has been relatively stupid, but also his behavior has been, I mean, let's say lackluster. So he obviously does not understand how World of Tanks works, and he should maybe fall back to a lower tier to learn the game mechanics. Okay, so let's see what he does. So let's speed up a little bit. So he's maintaining his position, basically unsure of what to do, and now he is basically leaving this position, going to the bridge. No, okay, looks like he actually has no clue of what he should do in this situation. Going to the bridge, trying to support. No, don't know what to do. Okay, so he's driving all the way around. I mean, he has a medium tank, so that is basically fine. So let's let's go to this position. So this is basically where he is going. There he appears. Okay, and now he's going to the heavy lane, and now let's slow down. So he's now once again going into a bush, and then once the enemy team appears, or once the heavy tanks appears, he's taking a shot. He's not falling back. Instead, he is simply trying to empty his whole clip. Remember, he has 4 shots. And so he's once again losing his HP for no reason. So, I don't know. In my opinion, this player has once again not understood how the game mechanics work. And I think he's not the best player whatsoever. And I think he should... Yeah, I'm now telling you what's happening later on in the game, but I think he should certainly try to learn the game before he goes and plays tier 10. Okay, so back to our game. So I'm like, okay, TVP, what is going on with you? Why are you mad? I am not I have nothing to do with your stupid gameplay, so just, you know, do whatever you want. Okay, and now the object 780 is pushing into our base. Now I want to turn around, and I still want to hide my tank, so to completely surprise him. So I want to catch him by surprise. Now look at what the TVP T5051 is doing. He's moving out of cover, trying to brawl frontally against the object 780, which is completely nonsense. However, this gives me the chance of getting 3 shots into this tank, and I can even finish off this tank. And now you saw the strength of the Rhino. So all of a sudden I could make another 1500 damage, and now I already made 2000 damage, and I killed the most dangerous tank of the enemy team. Now we are 3 tanks versus 6 tanks. However, we could kill the object 780, once again the most dangerous tank of the enemy team. And so now there's only the mouse, which is at least indicated being full HP, but we will see how it is. And now I want to basically fall back and try to support the Jagdpanzer E100. I think he did a relatively good job so far, and now let's see. Nice, we can take out the enemy VZ55, and so it's only 3 versus 5 tanks. So we want to fall back to not give the artillery the chance of taking us out. And in my opinion, what the Jagdpanzer E100 and the mouse of the enemy team are doing, they are certainly pushing the heavy lane. So I'm pinging the heavy lane, telling my team, well, turn around, because those tanks are most likely, and let me pause here, those tanks are most likely pushing via the western flank, so over the A lane, because in my position I can basically spot the tanks when they are approaching here. Our Manticore is basically spotting this position, so basically this area of the map, and also we are basically all of the time, or the Manticore is all of the time spotting the eastern flank. So this is all the area which is basically continuously spotted, and so chances are that the enemy forces are pushing via the A lane. So I'm turning around my tank, and once again I want to use the bad chat rack in order to give me some additional cover. Now our team is smart, so the Manticore and the Jagdpanzer E100 basically know what they are doing, and here is what is happening. So this team is, we can take out the T100 LT, so now it's a 3 versus 4 scenario, however 2 times artillery, and the artillery does not have a chance to okay, here you go, the artillery is even. Okay, now I want to get a shot onto the weak spot of the mouse, which is I'm unable, but I can at least get a shot onto the enemy artillery. Now I want to reload, and I have preserved my HP, so it is now time for me to push out and to finally take out those tanks. Now, the Jagdpanzer did an excellent job and took out the Jagdpanzer E100, and now it's my turn to trade in my HP and to simply go to the side of the mouse in order to take out this tank. And yes, I'm consciously trading my HP. I'm taking a shot, but that is not a problem at all. And now I do not focus the Russian arty because I want to get a shot onto the German arty, because I can ram the object 261 to death. And now meanwhile I can reload my clip, and now I can simply try to take out the last remaining tank. He should not have any problem whatsoever. The only thing I need to keep in mind is if he gets a let's say a splash shot onto my tank, and maybe if he high rolls, he could take me out. That was at least my consideration here in the game, so I am nonetheless relatively cautious, but I can take out this tank, and I make 6 kills, 3,700 damage in the Rhino. I think I turned around the game, or I basically carried the game, and in my opinion I did the exactly right thing. First of all, I tried to conduct kind of the standard gameplay on this map, which is to go to the western flank with the hull down tank. I took a look at the minimap and I saw what my team is doing. I recognized that my team is basically deciding to do something completely different. I reacted to this team composition, and then I decided what the smartest way is to basically make the best out of this situation. I did not basically lose my brain and simply try to support my team, but in a situation which is maybe bad for my tank, because after all I have to always consider the strength of my tank and bring my tank into a good position. I noticed that I cannot rely on at least a couple of teammates, and so I remained patient and I tried to once again bring my tank into a super strong position from which I can carry the game. So in my opinion, I did everything correctly, and I mean, you can write down some comments in the comment section if you see something differently. I would be highly interested, but so far I think we did everything correctly. And let's now take a look at the post-game stats. So here we are in the post-game stats. We received a couple of medals, Duelist, then Fire for Effect, and then the Pescucci medal for killing both or 2 artilleries, and then we made the Top Gun for our 6 kills, and then we received 3,748 damage. Now look at the TVP, only 1,200 damage, and then the IS actually made 4,600 damage, which is fine, but we made at least 3,000 profit even without premium account. And yeah, so take a look at what I wrote to this player, because he insulted me after the game. Of course he did, and I simply tried to explain what I did in order to give him my thoughts on the game. And once again, I think that I did the exactly right thing after I saw what our team is doing on this map. And after all, I think I could carry the game with the help of the Jagdpanzer E100, which also did more than 3,000 damage, which is a decent result. And so after all, once again, I think nothing to blame, nothing to worry about, everything is fine. We did the exactly right thing. So now let's take a look at this player and the TVP. Yeah, he has 38,000 battles, 5,000 overall WN8, and let's now, or statistic, WoT tank statistic, and let's now find his tank. So the, where is it? The TVP. Yeah, and I think, so let's take a look at the, I want to see his Czechoslovakian autoloader tank, so the TVP 5051, the TVP, so here you go. So let's take a look at, where is it? So the TVP, here you go, the TVP, so he has 45% win rate, and let's actually 289 battles. So let's click on this tank, and he makes an average damage of 1274 damage. So he is basically only able to make one clip and then one additional shot. That's what he can achieve in his, or actually one clip. So he's only able to make one clip. So yeah, so I think nothing more to say. So yeah guys, I think this video clearly showed how you should act and play in World of Tanks. First of all, you should play your tanks to the strength of the tanks, and you should basically try to increase the strength and play it according to its characteristics. Now, having that said, you should also take a look at the minimap and see what your team is doing. You should never try to go on a flank on your own, because you will simply get pushed out and be sent back to the garage. And then you should certainly not listen to players who do not understand the basic mechanics in World of Tanks, but rather try to adapt to what your team is doing and try to basically react to what you see on the minimap, and by doing so you can then still have the chance of carrying a game, as I could do in this game. So yeah, let me know what you think about this game, about my gameplay, about the gameplay of my teammates. Now, I'm completely happy and I'm not feeling offended whatsoever. Everybody can be emotional after having some bad games or some bad battles in World of Tanks, and I even respect that players. Sometimes you just need to release frustration and even insult teammates. That is completely fine, and I do not have a problem with it whatsoever. The point is, you should not assert that your teammates are doing stupid things if you by yourself don't have a clue what to do and how to play World of Tanks. Oh, and by the way, you should also try to learn the basic mechanics of the game while playing lower tiers, and certainly not play tier 10 tanks if you have no clue how to play World of Tanks. Anyway, that was it for today with a little non-standard video. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you hated it, give it a thumbs down. Consider subscribing to my channel, and I'll see you next time in another World of Tanks video.